Please, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Paul, can you hear me?
We can hear you, sir.
You can hear me. Okay, thank you. All right. Okay. Good morning, everyone. So, what I'm trying to do in this series of discussion is to provide some kind of guidance on a couple of things, because we read several articles, several write-ups. Okay, so there are many kinds of writing. There are writings that people just do in the universities, send to a journal that they want to publish a paper, mostly journal of their own department, just to get an article that they can put in their CVs that they've published, or a lot of journals that I would say that people don't read actually. So, but in development work, if you write, people will read, right? If you write and you are in that circle in the development world, people will read what you are writing. And there is something about clarity of writing. When you see writing that is clear, they are not always very long, right? Not always very long. And they are very focused. There's a clear purpose for the writing, and they stay on it. They are not going to be distracting your attention here and there. If there are some things they have in the document, but they look at it and feel that this one will distract the reader, they put it in footnotes. So generally footnotes, or some people prefer endnotes. That's why you have things that are material to the writing, but if you put it there, if you put it in the body of the writing, it will distract the reader from being able to follow the strain of thought, from being able to follow what you are presenting. So if you see that something is will likely distract your reader from following you, you take it out and put in the footnote. People that are interested in that one, they can check it. But at least the strain of thought that you are sharing, the logical flow of the writing, you preserve it. A lot of people don't understand this. A lot of people don't understand why we use footnotes and endnotes. They think it's another way to do referencing. Referencing bibliography referencing, that one has its own standards. The use of footnotes or endnotes are very specific to avoid distracting the reader. Some things you put in the footnotes, if you put them in the body, they will distract the reader. Okay, so the purpose of the writing has to be focused, and you have to stay on point. You have to. Every writing is a story. Everything you write is a story. So you want to tell the story in such a way that the reader can follow the story from beginning to the end. In fact, along the line, the reader begin to anticipate what's likely coming next. And so that keeps the reader interested in the reading. You can read, as I said, you can read a 12-page document And you will not stop, non-stop, because it's just taking you on and on and on and on. You can read a 2-page document and you are just fed up with it. You can't get the message. You understand what the person is saying. The person is distracting you from following the story. It's not coherent. You can't see the logical flow in it. Those are bad writings. Now, when we talk about output writing, it means that you have done some work. You have done some research. You have done some study. You have done some evaluation. You have performed something, and you have performed an activity, and now you are trying to tell the world about the activity you've done and what you came out with, what came out of it. So, it has the good writing will be very focused. Everybody knows the purpose of it, and people can follow the story as you're telling the story. It has to be targeted. If you are targeting the policy audience, that's where you write an article for policy audience. If you are targeting academic audience, there's where you write for the academic audience. If you are writing a blog article, there's where you write it. There are ways in which different audiences take information. If you are writing, for example, I know if you heard about Paul Krugman. Paul Krugman is an economist, a Nobel Prize winner in economics. Paul Krugman, as technical as he is in terms of he's one of the pioneers of increasing returns to scale in economics. Before his time, what we knew in economics was decreasing return to scale, and at best, constant return to scale, right? That is the idea that if in a production process, if you add more inputs, if you say double your inputs, or if you increase your inputs by a certain factor, let's say double, your outputs will increase by less than double, or at best double. That's for constant return to scale. For decreasing return to scale, if you double your inputs, your output will increase by less than double. But Paul Krugman is the one that brought the economics profession to the understanding that there is increasing returns situation, and it was a change in the way people understood a lot of things, especially international trade. So, very technical guy, but this guy also writes for New York Times, which is he writes a column for New York Times, a column that's read by every lay person on the street, and he just writes English language. He's so technical, but he can write technical things in very simple language, because the audience is the general lay public, people that are not interested in all these models, not interested in anything they have to say about his economics. They're just discussing interesting things. Maybe, for instance, what we'll be discussing in just one opinion piece might be a product of 3 different or 4 different technical papers. Now, because his audience, the readers, are different from the people he will write to if he's doing the other one. Sometimes it becomes very, very distressing when you ask a professor to come and speak in a policy meeting, right? And he comes there and he's talking about literature review. In the literature, this is that is that is that. Sometimes, I was in a meeting before. It was a high-level meeting. Okay? High-level meeting. And this professor was invited. And he started literature review. What? I don't know. Well, that is what they pride themselves in being able to do in their corner when talking to the academic community where they belong. But in the development community, because it was a development meeting, it was a policy meeting. With the development meeting, we are not talking about literature review. We are talking about evidence, right? Evidence that supports or contradicts a particular policy position. It's not literature review that they have. It started something about literature review. Everybody was just tired about it, period. And after the meeting, people started saying, this is why we don't bring these people here. to this kind of meetings because they don't have anything to say. It's just by literature review that they're talking about. There are other professors who know how to address different audience. They have research, they have evidence they're producing. But they are just a lot of people that just think that if you cannot write 10 pages of literature review, you're not a good researcher. And so that is what they carry into everything. Please, in development, that is not the key thing. Okay? And I'll come again to literature review. Now, your writing must be factual. Provide clear evidence, a clear picture of what happened, relevant facts, and pertinent negatives. Just no assumption. You're not writing about assumptions. Your clear picture of this what happened. When you tell us what happened, we are free to interpret it with the way from our own perspective. But again, for you to convince us that you have found something interesting to write about, you must tell us that if we make these assumptions, you must anticipate our assumptions, right, and address them in terms of interpreting your results. But first of all, the key rule is that if you have done some work, what you should present to us is the relevant facts and if there are negatives, right? No assumptions. A good writing is informative. Is informative. It gives you information, right? Something that looks like, because it's adding to a body of knowledge, right? Body of evidence. That's what you're writing. That's what you're adding to. You have to give us information and show us exactly maybe how it differs from what has been there before or what is not there before and so on and so forth, or how it reinforces or how it contradicts something. You have to be clear and give proper information, right? Now, the next one is that writings are expected to be positive. Okay? Report of findings may also be normative. But first of all, you have to do the positive first before you think about normative. Now, let me explain to you between positive and normative. Positive writing is writing about what happened, what has happened. Okay? About how things work, how things are working, how this is working, how that is working. What happened when I did this? This is what we want to know. That's writings are positive. When you have done that, you've done that, then on that basis, you can just start saying, based on this, what can happen if this happens, right? What do I believe can happen if this happens? That is, building on the positive, you're then doing some normative writing, right? But the positive must be there. But in this part of the world, people just go straight and start doing normative work. They sit down and start talking normative. Their positive is just their theories. They take their theories as positive, and based on that, they start doing normative thinking and writing. Okay, then a good writing must be complete. All the boxes are checked. We'll see all the boxes now that have to be checked. Good writing must also be timely. When I mean timely, it's not that an event that has come and gone, everybody has moved on from it, and it's an issue that has been closed. Now you're now writing about it. They tell you are late. That writing is late. Somebody raising a hand? No. Okay. So it must be timely, concise, make every word count. Tight. When you say the writing is tight, some people just write too many words. They just they think that in writing many words is when they're communicating. Somebody can write in one line, you're using 5 lines to write it. That's not good writing. It's just a bunch of just word salad. Just write so many words because they're just writing. Because you want to write plenty things. Just talking, just going around. Concrete facts with descriptive details, very clear. If you use abbreviations, you must use accepted ones. You must write short sentences or short phrases. you must stay away from all the big jargons. For example, we are professors in universities now. Anything they write, you will see, you will say something like, we have been on the terrain of a lacuna in our understanding of this precipitous fall of so and so. They believe that in writing big words, that's when they are seen as communicating, as making sense. Go and ask Patrick Obayagbo anyway. So, but writing in the development world, you write simple sentences or simple sentences. You don't write all these big words. Nobody's going to read it because nobody wants to go anywhere with dictionary because this is something some policymakers are going to read. Nobody wants to be trying to have an idea what you're writing. It has to be clear, very short sentences and short phrases. Very clear, very focused, very direct. Just communicate your results, your findings, and that's it. And let the readers be the judge. These are elements of good output writing, whether it's and generally, elements of a good output writing, it has to be focused. It has to be targeted, factual, informative, objective, and complete. Okay. So when we talk about the components, the first one is the abstract, or what's called the executive summary. Okay. Let me tell you something about it. Abstract in academic publications is different from executive summary in policy-related work. Okay. So, in executive summary, in fact, some executive summary are supposed to be an abridged version of the report. Okay. So that's the first section. In writing abstract, you can have a document of 20 pages or 30 pages, and abstract of just one page. No, executive summary doesn't work that way, because you realize that in the development world, a lot of people don't have time to read your paper, to read the content. What they will read is an executive summary. So people use executive summary to communicate what's in the paper, not just some abstract. No, because in the abstract, you expect people to go there and read the paper, but executive summary, they can read it and just go away if they don't have time. Okay. Then introduction or stroke objective, background, so literature review, approach, so methodology, and then procedures, results and findings, discussion of the findings of the result, and then a conclusion. After the conclusion, then actionable recommendations. You read papers that what they even say in the method, you can't even see the data they're analyzing, you can't see anything. Then they tell you they found some results, just put some things there. It's not transparent. There's no transparency in the whole thing. Then at the end, because they must make recommendations. Government should do this. Government should do that. And government should do that. Very meaningless things without understanding of how government works. So all those kind of recommendations, and they are not actionable because they're just wish lists. Wish lists. They're just talking, just to say something about recommendations. But when you in the development world, that one is what? They will tell you that they don't listen. Nobody wants to hear that. In the academic world, though, it's fine. You can write anything you like, because development world, I mean, they don't read a lot of that. But if you are writing for the development world, when you say recommendations, there must be one actionable recommendations, which means that when something is actionable, it means that you understand the system that's going to implement it. You understand the way it works. So you know exactly how it works. So in your recommendation, you have some clues into some insight into how the system works that's going to implement your recommendation. Otherwise, they're just talking. In fact, even recently, there's the project that's going on now, and what we said is that we don't want general recommendations. We don't want. They don't want it. They want recommendations that are ingrained, that are very specific, very focused, very direct. Right? They don't want general things anymore. They want very direct recommendations that that can tell us exactly what you need to do to change this, to make this happen, not just general thing, right? So a lot of the writings of these general recommendations, they don't work anymore. All right. So this is output writing now, not input writing. Oh. Output writing. Oh. Okay. So introduction. As I've said, before you start writing a paper, you must have done the work before you start writing. In terms of output writing, oh. In terms of output writing, I'm not saying input writing. In output writing, you must have done the work that you want to present. You have found something you want to present to the world. Not that you just want to find it. That one is an input writing, okay? That one is a proposal. But output writing, you already have the results. You have understood exactly, you've got results, you've understood it, and you've looked at it from different perspectives. You've tested it in several ways. You've checked the robustness of the findings to ensure that it is not easily upturned by some change in assumptions or whatever it is. And you've done all that. Now you want to present it to the world. Okay? So, first of all, the introduction of the objective will be different from when you're doing input writing. Because in the introduction, you start explaining the importance of the problem. Applications of the experiment that you've conducted, or the theory. Explain reasons and goals for the study and the motivation. So in this part, you want to explain the research problem, right? You want to explain it and its content. It's not that you're just trying to say you want to do something. That's an input writing. This one you have done it. So you see that when you're writing, it's an output writing, you will see the language. It's different from when you're writing a proposal. Okay. After the introduction to the objective, where you have explained the problem clearly, all right, then your literature, which is background stroke literature. Review existing literature, theories guiding the study or experiment, and then references. I've said before, literature review is not one line for every author. This author says that. This author opines this. This author argues this. That author says that. This author says this. That was so that in the end you have so many pages of literature review because they believe that is how you show that you are scholarly. It's not true. It's not true. It is when see all that one that you say this, those ones, all this one-liner, and this author says this author found this author says this author found this. All those ones, they are things you should put in an Excel sheet. They are things that should be in an Excel sheet for your preliminary work, preliminary literature work, literature review. That's your preliminary literature review. That it should be an Excel. That's not what should be in the paper. That's not what should be in what should come to the paper. What should come to the paper is, you see all these one-liners. This one said this one found this one used this method and found that, this one said this and that one. You will have taken all that. Maybe you have 70 references and you will have articulated, you will have analyzed them, and you would have taken time, right? You will have taken time to synchronize, to synthesize them and see the various strands the literature is going. I mean, the literature head, right, is heading. The different strands of literature, and then group them properly. A group of authors found this in such a way, and you describe their finding and implications and then what they did. A group of authors kind of go in this direction. There's another group that maybe just in the middle, just somewhere. Another group of evidence is turning this way. And so that's when you do, you've done literature review. But this one-liner, this one said, that one said, this one said, everything in that document is not accepted here. Or maybe, but if it is academic literature or what we just want to publish in your development journal, it's fine. But here in the development world, it's not fine. People just drop the paper. It's because it's not interesting. Okay, that's about literature review. Okay. Then number 3, the approach to methodology. I explained the difference between approach and methodology before. Let me say it again. An approach is an overview of how you did that thing, how you did it. Okay? And the approach in this sense, if you are writing a proposal, your approach is how you want to do it. But because you are doing output writing now, your approach is how you did it. Okay? The how that you did it. Then the second is the methodology or the procedure. That's a step-by-step account of what you did. Approach and methodology are not the same thing. Okay? The approach doesn't have the step-by-step account of what you did, but it gives you an overview of how you did it, not what exactly you did. Okay? Okay. Then the methodology will describe the experimental procedure, data collection, all of them. Sometimes you have to include a schematic or a diagram of the flow of the activity. For example, those who are in health and they are doing some even if somebody just doing some what do you call this thing? Systematic review of the literature. They will tell you how they went from stage to stage, how many articles they reviewed, how many ones they disqualified on what basis. Okay, how many articles so you see the diagram, how they move from 1,000 articles to eventually ending up with just about 300 articles. Right? They will show you the whole thing there, why they disqualified all those things. So a very clear diagram of the methodology. Okay, then please write in complete sentences. For example, the tank was filled with 5 liters of water. Not we fill tank with 5 liters of water. Okay? Okay. The results or the findings. The rule is that you have to state the result before any graphs, figures, or tables. The rule is that you cannot be discussing a table after you've presented it in a writing. The discussion of a table has to precede the table. Discussion, whether it's a table or a figure or a graph, the discussion has to come before that graph or table. You can't be discussing a table after you presented that graph. No, it is before you present it. Okay? So state the results in the text before presenting graph, figures, or tables. Text points out the most significant portions of it. You cannot discuss everything inside the table or everything inside the graph. The most significant portions of it is what you're just supposed to discuss, and then the table will speak for itself. You will indicate the trends or relationships. You highlight expected or unexpected findings. Then, fine. In a lot of cases, people see things visually a lot more now than before, and there is an emphasis on visual presentation of evidence. So that's great. Now, visual presentation of results is becoming, there's a lot of demand now on visual presentations. In the past, things that you just write. No, people don't want to see visually. Visually. They want to visualize it. So graphs, tables, or figures, then even including error analysis. Then, as I said, you write in past tense. These are results you measured or calculated or observed. In an output writing, you cannot have future tense in it. We did this. We looked at this. We reviewed this. We did that. You can't say you are reviewing or you are going to review in an output writing. No way. Then, when you finish results and findings, then the discussion. So your discussion needs to do 3 things. Number 1, your understanding of why you think you observed those results. Your understanding. of why you think those results were observed. So let me tell you one thing. Again, I'm sorry, when I read articles published by a lot of people in the academic system here, what they just do is that once they run a regression, right? Especially in social sciences, when they run a regression and they find a result, that's a paper. They want to write it out. And that's a paper from the perspective. And that's what they publish. No. That result you found is the beginning of the research, actually. The result you found is the starting point, not the end. For them, that's the end. This one's significant, that one is not significant, and that's it. They think that's the end of research. No, that's the beginning. So your discussion, why did you observe what you observed? Why do you think it is so? So when you start asking questions, why is this so? That will start leading you to looking at the structural issues that might be producing that thing. Okay? It will be giving you this. You start probing. You say it is from the result. You start when you find the result. As I said, you found the result, and you probe it very well. You understand exactly why it is so. So your discussion. Why did you observe what you observed? So why do you think this is? Why do you think this is happening? Well, why do you think you found this? Because that's the area that your readers will contest with you. That's where they will take the task. You say this is likely a cause, but if there's evidence to the contrary that's not the case, then you have to justify exactly why you think you found that contradictory evidence. So, in your explanation of why you observe that, you have to make comments on the unexpected results. You have to offer hypotheses for them. Then you also have to compare to the literature. Does the research confirm previous studies or deviate from them? It's in the discussion you find those things. Discussion is where you bring those things out. Some people say in the discussion, you're supposed to only discuss your result. You can't bring literature again. It doesn't make any sense. You found something that actually contradicts the received knowledge, received wisdom. You have to discuss, and you discuss it in the light of the existing literature, and you actually provide hypotheses why you think that might be the case, why you think what the previous result might have missed, what differences in literature, in methodology could have contributed to that, what shifts in attitudes, shift in patterns, shift in consumption patterns, shift in behavioral issues patterns may have contributed to that. We discuss all those things in your discussion. So the discussion part of it is really what a lot of people look forward to. In a good paper, people will look at people that have time. They will go straight to your methodology and to your results and discussions. Those are 3 areas they look out for, because that's the heart of the paper. The literature review that people put too much emphasis on, just put about 20 pages of literature review, just write one article after the other. That's like how things used to be, but not in this age. Who has time to be reading 20-page literature review? What you have to do is people want to see synthesized literature review, to show that you have reviewed the landscape properly, and you have synthesized the evidence. There's the different strands, different directions, different strands, right, in that literature. You bring them out. It could be about 6 strands. You bring them out. There's a couple of authors that found things in this direction, couple of authors this way, couple of authors this way, couple of papers this way, couple of that way. And so that's how you synthesize a literature. Not that you write them one by one in a paper. So sometimes in the academic world, for example, somebody was doing a postgraduate diploma somewhere in Kaduna, and then I pity them. The specification given to them that the teacher review must be this number of pages. So They have to go and be looking for articles and be copying and pasting, copying and pasting, copying and pasting, copying and pasting, line by line, one author after the other author. For one author, they will have about 10 lines just to make pages up. I mean, you see how people who are still living under the rocks, right? In this regard, but in development too, because this focus on development. In development, we don't have time for it. You don't have time for this. You synthesize it before you present it. Okay. Now the conclusion, right? What does it discuss? It talks about what was learned through this research. It will talk about the strengths and weaknesses of the study, and then possible applications of this study, possible ways in which can be used. This evidence, this thing you have created, possible applications of this study. Your evidence, your result can be useful. In the conclusion, in the discussion, you have explained your result. You have, talked about how it conforms to why you think those results are. I mean, why you think they are that, how it conforms to previous literature, and how you offering hypotheses for them, whether it conforms to the previous result or not, and so on and so forth. But now, in the conclusion, how is this applicable? How can we apply this? Okay, and that's when people find your paper really interesting to think about. People will sit down and think about what you're saying. If you do these things very well, people will take the paper and sit down. In fact, some people will take time. They will take time. They will just be thinking about it and just asking themselves, "Wow, this is challenging my mind." Right, on the things I've seen before, I believe before. This is challenging my mind. And so, what does it mean? They start looking around, trying to find evidence, trying to look around to say whether this thing is really true or not. But once people believe your methodology, and when they believe it, your methodology, and okay, so actionable. I hope my screen is moving, so I'm not just in one place. Paul, please confirm.
It's moving.
Yes.
Thank you. So, on actionable recommendations. So now, how can society benefit from these study findings? Okay. So you've discussed your results, why you think they're like that, how how you think they differ from what has been found before, and you have some explanations for it. Then you have come to the conclusion how possible applications for it. Then in recommendations now, this is a side where we need to see how we benefit from this, how society can benefit from your study. So in your recommendations, so what will you do? What will you do differently? Which means that for you to say this, and please listen to this. All these things I just say, government should do this, government should do that. They have no clue about what government is doing. They don't have any clue at all. What you just see is that, they found some result. That coefficient is significant. That one is significant. Okay, because of that. This is meaning. This academic meaning. And then they say, government should do this. Government should do that. Right? So, for you to be able to answer this second question, what will you do differently? It means that you need to know what is being done at the moment. Okay? What is being done at the moment? What is government doing? What's the industry doing? What are development organizations doing currently? And so, when you know that, that's when you can talk about what you would do differently based on this study. Okay? Based on the study, what will you do differently? Is anybody raising hand? Okay, no one. All right. So, what will you do differently? Okay? So, to be able to answer that question again, as I say, you must know what is being done currently. So what changes will you recommend for the situation? And then when you say actionable recommendations, these things, this must be feasible to be done, must be feasible. And when you say something is feasible, you can't just recommend something without providing guidance on how to do it. Because you have studied because you know exactly what is being done. You know how they are being done currently. And then you are saying, this is what I would do differently based on these findings, right? And then I'll recommend these changes, that change. But everything you're recommending, they must be feasible. And you have to guide in terms of how to do them. This is when you think you have done research that is useful in the development community. You know, it's a different thing from the academic community when people are just doing their thing. You know, they're just doing their thing. They're just doing their thing. They're not bothering you. You're not bothering them. Just doing their thing, just publishing their departmental journal, just writing papers, publishing because their CVs have to be long so they can get promoted, and and so they're just doing that thing. So you don't hold them to this kind of so nobody holds them to this kind of standards. When you are writing for the development community, it's a different thing because that's where policies are thought about. That's where programs to be implemented are fetched. The evidence that they are looking for to be able to fetch understanding of what they should do to address something. So any paper that's coming out must provide some guidance, right? Not guidance you pick from the shelf. Guidance that's rooted in something you have studied, and then you are making progress. For example, I think 2 years ago, 2022, yes, we did a study on the digital economy. Yes. So among the youth, ages 18 to 35. So the methodology was quite robust. The version was nationwide. Data from young people, 18 to 35, from employers, that's companies, who are at different stages of digitization, those who are yet to commence, those who have started and in the intermediate state, and those who have advanced. So also data from training institutions, those who are training people in digital, those who are providing digital skills, interview them. So we interviewed also some occupational group associations. So we interviewed a lot of people in the study. So then in the end, so because we also had the people from the ministries also participate, we also had interviews with a lot of them. So when we put all the evidence together, when we triangulated all the evidence, what we found is this, and that the challenges to employment among the young, on the supply side, on the side of young people who need jobs, the number one challenge is information. Somebody will say, information, okay. In this age of social media, how can information be a problem to anybody? When you can have access to anywhere, you can download from anywhere, you can. So you think that because people have phones in their hands and they have social media in their hands, therefore they have information. That's what goes on in social media is just what people want to talk about among themselves. Okay? And somebody that is doing well somewhere, how is doing it, blah, 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 all these things, the latest fashion, latest trend, what is trending, and blah, 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 all these things. You think that is information that people really need to be able to find a good job. So the information they need, people need to know where the economy is going, where the jobs are coming from. So young people say, where are the jobs? That's question number one. We don't know where the jobs are. So somebody was questioning, with all this access to information, they're still asking where the jobs are. Because what they discuss among themselves is what just one or two people know now, isn't it? Or a few people. What they know. That's what they will share, isn't it? But on a wider scale, where are the jobs coming from? It's not clear to people, right? So, number one, where are the jobs coming from? Number two, question number two, what skills do we need to get those jobs, right? Where are the jobs? Where are the jobs? That's question number one. Number two, what are the requirements for the jobs? That's number two. Number three, where can we get the skills required for these jobs? Those are the three top questions. Top three questions in terms of employment creation. I mean, in terms of digital skill, digital employment and positions. Those are the top three questions. Number one, we don't know where the jobs are. Number two, we don't know the requirement for the jobs. Number three, we don't know where we can get the skills for those jobs. Okay? So when we finished, when the study ended, so the people that the relevant community did, so they sat down and they're now asking the question, what do we do now? We have information problem. And it's true. There is information asymmetry is a big problem. All right? Those who study economics, those who study competitive economies, perfect competition. In perfect competition, information, there is zero asymmetry of information. Everybody knows everything, right? Everybody knows everything. There is no information hidden somewhere. So we all need the information. We know where the jobs are. We know what is required for the jobs. We know where to get the skills for the jobs. So that's in that kind of a setting, you can't have people that say they are unemployed. But once you start having some asymmetry, some people start going in the directions that are not consistent with where the economy is going. Some people start studying courses, going to picking courses that the economy doesn't need. And then you end up with skills mismatch, right? Where people go to study things and they don't get jobs from them. Even though the labor market is also tightening, the enterprise sector is not growing as fast as the labor force is growing. Regardless of that, there is still a huge problem of skills mismatch, because a lot of people are studying things that's not what the market is looking for. In fact, some time ago, we did a labor market information system study, and it was just like a pilot. And if you know the leading jobs right now, they are in renewable energy, and it's growing very fast. But a lot of people don't know because you don't have that kind of information available. You don't have those studies. Employers are not publishing those things. The people that are doing the collection of data, they are privatizing it. That's what do you call these guys? This guy organizing, helping companies to hire workers, so on and so on and so forth. But remember, I'll tell you. So, information asymmetry is a big problem. So now, after that study, those are top three issues. Top three. So after that study, now people now start asking, do we have existing solutions to these issues? Number one, the information asymmetry. We found out that the German government had supported the Nigerian government to develop what they call the National Electronic Exchange, NELEX. No, Nigerian Electronic Labor Exchange. Yeah. Nigeria Electronic Labor Exchange, NELEX. That NELEX, I don't know how many companies know about it. I don't know how many human beings know about it. Even if you go to the Ministry of Labor and Employment, a lot of staff don't know anything about it. But if you go to the top, they know about it, that it exists. So and NELEX is supposed to be open wide to every organization, public and private, to post job creation, to put new jobs there, so that it's something that can be very available publicly, that everybody will have access to, and people can start looking at that and be using it as a barometer for the economy. Where the economy is moving. But it's hidden somewhere. Nobody is aware. I mean, I've never heard about it until I went to the Ministry of Labor and Employment, that they told me. Never, even in the meeting, not everybody in the meeting knew about it. So so when I said, okay, so what should we do? And these people that funded the study, they don't have big money like German government. They don't have big money to do something different. So they said, okay, maybe we just do a simple publication to just do a survey of where jobs are, and then be able to do the publication and spread among the youth, spread it very wide. So now that effort is being guided by understanding of what is currently being done. They don't want to go the way of NELEX, because NELEX is going to sit down somewhere and it will not be used. So they want to take a different approach towards it. Something that will like more efficient, that can be shared, that can be distributed. But the problem is still there up to now, because they just did something little and just went away. Government hasn't taken this role by itself. If you ask them, they'll say, go to Ministry of Labour and Employment. They're the ones that have the responsibility for providing information. When you go there, they say they have NELEX. The people are not publishing there. People are not publishing to it. People are not providing information. But how much effort have you made to publicize it, to make it national, make it available to every employer, and so on and so forth? Even though there are issues also on the side of employers, but there are ways to fix that. There's no problem that have solution once we have the will to make it happen. Yeah, so we must provide guidance in terms of doing it. Any change you are recommending from your study, how should it be done? Based on the knowledge of how things are organized now. Sometimes I find it very difficult to believe the way people think about things. Number one, for instance, in the last election in the country, we had a very promising candidate that were contesting to run the federal government. But I did not hear him talk about what is being done in that ministry, in that place, in that ministry. What is being done? What are they doing currently? And what will I do differently? I felt that he was probably short. He wasn't well served by people that were kind of supporting, that were around him. Because if you say, okay, I want to run this government, and I want to make things happen. Number one, you have to show that you know how the government is working. You have to show that you know what is being done, what policies, what practices, what instruments are being used, and how these instruments are not effective. Maybe they are the wrong ones, and you tell us why they are wrong, and they are not effective, and why you think they are not effective, and what you do differently. In that case, it means that you already know what these folks are doing, and you have a better idea, right? I didn't hear that, right? Even though he was a very promising candidate, but I didn't hear that from the discussion. And this is the level of government that the candidate wanted to run, and so that was a gap that I found in that period, and essentially that ought not to be in a system where we pay attention to how things work. I've come to the realization that because of the way that our education system is structured, a lot of people don't know how things work, really. We don't know how things work in the country. So when people are talking, making recommendations, they don't know how things work, so they have no idea how things work. They just talk, and everybody talks like he's a specialist. He's a knowledgeable person. But when you bring them in to sit down and see how things work, they will say, I didn't know. Hey, I have no idea. That's what you hear. But outside, you would think that they are most knowledgeable. You think that they know what they're talking about. That's the problem we have in this country. A lot of people don't know what they're talking about. They don't know how those things work. In fact, sometimes I felt that. Sorry, this is just my observation. Among the young people during the last election, their position is just as this. This thing is not working. This country is not working. We don't know why it's not working. So we want everybody out of that place. We just want everybody gone. Everybody in that place, leave the place. You are performing terribly, although we don't know why you are performing terribly. Terribly. We want all of you to leave that place. We want to bring, we want to change so that everything can work differently. Oh God. I reminded some people about the story of the government that just left, the one that left in 2023, the last administration. When they were coming in, they because because we also knew that before the Jonathan government left, everywhere was dry, no money anywhere. Some of us knew, but they didn't know. They thought that there was money. So when they came into office, that Mr. President realized that there was no money anywhere to do anything. Very funny, and then they had to start borrowing. They had to put their promises, their campaign promises. So not knowing how things work is a big problem we have in this part in this country. Oh. I don't know whether it happens in other countries in Africa, but here a lot of people don't know. Majority of people don't know how things work in this country. So, and it's in development. If you're trying to make a change, you need to invest some time trying to figure out how things work really. Because when you know how things work, then you can say this is what we need to do differently. Yeah, that's just a detour. Okay. Graphics, use of graphics should be used to illustrate specific points, and they should be incorporated in a way that is natural to the report's content or context. It should be explained fully in the text using references such as figure 1 shows so. Should be cited if taken from a source. If you take it from a source, you cite the source. Then textual information should come before graphics. Okay, I've said that before. Now, different types of outputs. We're talking about output writing. So different types of outputs. Yeah, type 1, type 2, type 3. And the requirements are different. Number 1, you have manuscripts for academic and policy journals. Stock project reports, and you have occasional papers. All these things, they differ slightly, but they have some things in common. But the process of getting them through sort of varies. But they have to be scientific, right? They have to be scientific. They have to be based on rigorous standard methodology, rigorous standard approach to methodology. They have a structure that you need to follow in order to do good justice to the issues. So manuscript for academic and policy journals, technical project reports, and occasional papers. Second type, you have policy briefs, commentaries and opinions and analysis. So type 2 is based on type 1, right? But it doesn't have the same structure of type 1. So my policy briefs, what you are doing is that you are looking at all the studies, all the type 1 studies, the academic and policy journals, the ones that are really transparent and you can learn from, the technical projects reports done in different places that you have access to, a lot of them are on the web, different programs that have run different projects here, they have their summaries, they have their reports that they have produced and they are shared online. Occasional papers also by specific organizations that you can also have access to. So when you comb all that, in policy brief, you are trying to say, what do we learn from all these things and how can it help? How should we be approaching the use of this evidence in changing the way things work? What are the policy options or prescriptions? Are these findings recommending to us? So, a policy could also be a discussion on a specific a reaction to a specific policy, but that one comes in form of commentaries and opinions. You are reacting to a specific policy based on knowledge you already have, right? Or based on the situation, right? This is not the right policy because of so. Because one, this policy is assuming this, so and so, but these things are not true. For instance, when I was doing a master's MSc at Unilag, So that was, I mean, I studied actuarial science, first degree. So that was my first writing, my first thesis in economics. So I was interested. That was the time, you look at the 80s. No, I did my thesis in the 90s, around 96, 97. But I was looking at late 80s to early 90s during the structural adjustment program. And I was reading up on what happened during that period. And it struck me that there were assumptions made in the sense that when the IMF and World Bank, IMF in particular, when they were asking Nigeria to adopt structural adjustment, it was all over Africa anyway, to accept the structural adjustment program. One of the policies was that the country's exchange was the country's currencies were overvalued, and they needed to be devalued. And the assumption was that if you devalue your currency, you should propel demand for your products in the international market, right? If you devalue your currency, your goods become cheaper. Your goods become cheaper to the rest of the world. So you're able to drive exports. And if you drive exports and you have a thriving export sector, then that should have implications for domestic economy. It should improve labor market conditions. A lot of people should find jobs. It should raise wages, raise welfare, and so on and so forth. So they felt that Africans need to devalue their currency so that one can encourage foreign demand for the goods they are producing. So I look at that. Okay, that's an assumption they made. But wait a minute. On what evidence was that based? Is it evidence from somewhere else or evidence from Nigeria? Do they have an understanding of how sensitive exports are to currency prices, right? So that is, if your currency gets devalued, the price of the currency drops, then your exports should improve. Is that how the Nigerian economy used to function? Did they observe that in Nigeria before recommending that kind of policy, that kind of prescription, or just a blanket thing that they felt that once we devalue our goods to be cheaper to the rest of the world, and so we should be able to do export and our economy should get brighter. So I wanted to investigate that. So went back in history and looked at what the relationship between the price of our currency and exporting goods and services. So they expected that our exports should be price elastic, right? When price means the price of the naira, that is when that exports should be responsive to prices. But unfortunately, what were we exporting as a country? Mostly oil. If you look at oil you can't put oil in that category. Your oil sales doesn't respond to your value of the currency, because the quantity of oil you can sell to the world is determined by OPEC, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. So you can't even say oil. So I focus on non-oil exports. So, and what I found is that the changes in prices, that exports were not elastic to change in prices. Elasticity was very small, very small compared to what they expected. So then I started asking, so why is that the case? That's very small. Then I started looking at consumption patterns and purchasing power. So why do people that actually have money to buy goods? And as a matter of taste, so you think that people that have a lot of money, in fact, in that era, when you reduce the price of naira, right, actually their consumption habit didn't change. They didn't start buying locally made. They kept buying foreign made goods. Because as far as they're concerned, the other the taste. So the people that actually had a lot of money to spend in buying imports, their behavior didn't change. So what happened then was that a lot of people that were importing raw materials to do production, they crashed because the imports became so expensive to them. A lot of companies had to crash because they couldn't buy the raw materials anymore in order to produce. So rather than the assumption, and you also have to assume that companies operating here in Nigeria they already have ability to resource their inputs locally. Because if they are going to buy their inputs from overseas, if you devalue the currency, then it becomes very difficult for them to do those imports. If they do, then the price of their goods will rise up so much, and if they are unable to pass the good, if the good they are selling are not demanding elastic, if they should be demand elastic in some ways, but it's price elastic in some ways, it means that they cannot shift the increase in prices to consumers, and they have to bear it. So if you are in a production process, if you are producing some goods that is price elastic, which means that if you raise the prices, your demand should respond to it. People start looking for alternatives. So if you are somebody that is producing a good locally, and then the price of the imports just went up astronomically, which means that if you do that, if you raise money to buy those imports and you produce, the price of your output should go up also astronomically. If you cannot pass that, the increase in price to consumers, if instead of being able to sell, if they will just shift to alternative goods, then you are screwed. So that's what happened to a lot of companies. A lot of companies just folded up. They were unable to continue to exist. So where is the benefit of this thing then? Where's the benefit of this exchange devaluation? So what they expected to work, in some ways, work in a different direction. Then they also had an expectation. They expected that the weak companies, they will suffer, but stronger ones should emerge, right? Because the international financial market now were getting open to it. But of course, you know what happened in Nigeria? Those companies, manufacturing in particular, that closed down that time, newer ones did not come out. We didn't have new ones coming out, because if they came out, they will also face the same conditions of having to import raw materials, and they will not be able to produce properly and sell. Rather than companies show up in manufacturing and agriculture, companies were showing up in financial services, right? So can you imagine? So you use a policy that should have really benefited the manufacturing, the industrial sector. It killed the industrial sector, and it created a lot more banks, right, and financial institutions. So that's how our transition in this part of the world, it didn't flow. It's not following the normal process where you transition from agriculture-based economy to an industrial-based economy, then to service-based economy. We just jumped from agriculture-based economy to service-based economy, and so we don't have that base, industrialization base, to actually create jobs. That's why we are suffering from job creation in this country. So a lot of those policies that people just embark on without competent and realistic basis in terms of what does evidence say in this setting? Where is the research supporting this? Where is evidence supporting this? They just bring policy instruments that are not backed by sound evidence locally. They just ruin things for people. So, and we're making some progress in terms of using evidence for policies, but we're not there yet. So policy briefs are a way to summarize existing research, existing evidence, and then policy implication to address the policy, maybe a new policy, or to address, to form opinion in terms of what happens if the policy that's just been enacted, or to sort of advocate for a new set of policies. Commentaries and opinions are opinions from people that know the terrain very well, and they are telling you exactly that, so showing your opinion on something, reacting to a topic, to an issue. The think tanks, they do that a lot. Policy think tanks, they react to every issue that's coming in policy, in government, in economy, in society, and they react with opinions, right, based on the experience they had. Then analysis, we just take an issue and just analyze that issue broadly, and just to analyze the consequence, analyze the issues, and so on and so forth. These three, they don't have the same requirement as type 1, right? In the type 2. Then the type 3 will be blogs, right? Blogs are just like conversations, right? It can also be based on findings. Some people, in fact, I've seen somebody who actually wrote a book using a blog. He wrote chapter 1 by himself, he put it in a blog, and people started responding to the chapter 1, to the chapter that I posted there. And then he harmonized all the responses, all the commentaries, all the information people are producing, were giving him in terms of the blog, and he put them together to use to finalize that chapter. He will put chapter 2 there again, and because that blog was a popular one for policymakers from different parts of the world, and so he was able to gather evidence from across the globe to into that, and eventually he produced a book from the blog. So blogs are also a way to sort of garner evidence from different people to react to what you are doing. Type 1 can't do that for you. People don't respond to type 1 like that. It's only blogs that people respond to easily like that. Although some people can respond to policy briefs, and then commentaries and analysis, but the blogs are the opportunity for people to just chat about those topics. And blogs, in terms of the structure, in terms of the requirements, they're also less tenuous, less tedious than type 2, and type 2 are less tedious than type 1 in terms of the of output writing. Okay, so I think so I've reached the end of the presentation. Thank you very much for listening. I hope this is useful. This slide will be available to be shared. Okay, so I have to stop presenting. All right. Thank you. Okay, thank you.